Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to RobMotive. Today, we're going to talk about cold air intakes because I've got to do something. But before we get to that, there is another real quickie little mod that I've done before that I have to do on this truck. You know, I can always cement whether a mod is good or not when I lose it. In other words, this new truck doesn't have it, and I've missed it, so we're going to put it on. Now, what I'm talking about, it goes over there on the side mirror, actually on both, but I only have one right now. And it's this little dinky swivel, what I'll call a pod mirror, right? It just sticks onto the back of your mirror. It's adjustable, it has a little swivel base there, and you can point it down. And the whole idea is to be able to save the wheels on the truck, the wheels and the tires. In other words, when you're backing up or pulling up against something, you can't see what's down right along the edge of the truck. When you put this on, you can angle it down so that you can see that. It is a saver, especially if you've got aftermarket wheels that you don't want to get all curb rashed. Nothing worse than curb rash or all scraped up and even ruined tires. So it's a very simple mod. It goes on the mirror. I've actually cleaned this off. I washed it. And I also cleaned it with some rubbing alcohol because this is going to stick on right here in the corner. Then we just jump in and get the angle the way that I want it, and it's done. So let's go ahead, put this thing on there real quick. We'll take a quick look at it, and then we're going to get to cold air intakes. Okay, as I mentioned, this is pretty simple to do. Just want to get it in the right spot, and I do put it on so it clears the edge. So if for some reason I was to rotate the mirror down, the existing mirror, it wouldn't hit. So I'm going to put it about, I'm guessing about right there. I also don't want it in the way of the view, I guess, of the mirror itself. So we're going to go about right there, I think. And obviously, like anything else that you're sticking on, you just want to kind of hold it on there for a couple minutes to make sure that you get good adhesion. Ideally, you would heat this up a little bit, just hit it with a hairdryer, not for long, you don't want it red hot, but that gets the adhesive as tacky or as sticky as it can be so that you get the best adhesion. But I will say, in putting these on my other truck, I didn't have any issue with them sticking. They never came off. And also, the good thing about using anything that's adhesive, if I wanted to get this off, I would just take a razor blade from the back, cut through the adhesive and pull it right off. It would be very simple to do. Anyway, let's go ahead and get it restuck on there. I will leave a link down below if you want to check out price and availability of something like this. They don't cost much. The cheapest mod you can get to protect the side of your truck. Okay, we've got it on. We're in the truck. Let me show you what the view is. If you look over there, you can see it right there. And you'll notice there's a blue bucket sitting there. I set that there so you get an idea of what you can see in that mirror. That, imagine, would be some gnarly, sharp, jagged curb that you're running up against with your wheels. Or even if you're off-roading somewhere and you want to see how much clearance you have, you know, you really don't care about your wheels, but you want to know if you can make it through. Now you can see how close you are. All right, that gets the mirror on the side of the truck. I put it on the passenger side because I find I pull up against things on that side way more frequently than I do on the driver's side. Although I will be putting one on the driver's side too. Like I mentioned, I only happen to have one. But let's get into the meat of it. The cold air intake, the controversial cold air intake. First of all, the Toyota Tacoma already has a cold air intake. If you didn't know, this is a cold air intake, and loosely, simply, the definition is a sealed box with forced air going into the intake. That is in the form of a hole over here in the side of the fender that brings air in through a tube, a little opening, that then feeds the engine. Pretty efficient way to do it, but it's not the prettiest thing. And you know, we've got to make it pretty underneath the hood. So I am going to be doing some kind of cold air intake on this. Ideally, I'd like something with a little more flash, a little more bling. Because honestly, any kind of an intake, and this won't be a cold air intake most likely, it will just be an intake. But any kind of an intake that you put on, is only for aesthetics, particularly for me. They don't give you any more than what you've already got. What Toyota has designed is pretty efficient. It does what it's supposed to do, and the whole idea is to feed the engine and give you the best fuel economy. Now, when I talk about aesthetics, I do want something with a little more pop underneath the hood. That's why I do it. I love the way that they look. Initially, when I first started out doing this, I believed all the claims, you know, that you'd get better fuel economy, that you'd have a nice throaty sound under the hood. You know, like back in the day when you had an air cleaner sitting on top of a 4-barrel carburetor, you'd flip that lid upside down and you were supposed to get more sound, right? A deeper, grumblier sound from under the hood. I never experienced that. Maybe it was just the cars that I had. Others have said that they did experience that, but I never did. And it's the same way with changing out the intake on the Tacoma. I will say I have an air raid cold air intake on the Jeep Gladiator. That one gives me a nice throaty sound. I mean, it's obvious. You can hear it. I love it. But I have never come across anyone that does that for the Toyota Tacoma, unfortunately. So what I'm probably going to do is go with an open box, if you will. It's not going to be sealed. It's not going to be like the OEM version that has a true cold air intake. It's just going to be an intake. That means it's going to be some sort of a tube, and that's where I want my colors to come in, as well as the filters. I mean, they're typically red, blue, some are white, it depends, but they're a big honking filter that fits underneath here. It's easily accessible. Another thing that I like about it, they're easy to change when you need to. Price-wise, they're going to cost you more money. Those filters are not cheap, but they do last a long time, and you can go with the oiled versions that you're supposed to be able to clean. I have never been a fan of those because it's never made sense to me to put something in the truck in the form of a filter that already has things clogging the pores, the holes in the filter, in the form of oil. Plus, if you put too much on, can't you suck that in through the intake into the engine? I don't want to do that. So I always go dry, and I'll pony up the bucks to replace it when it needs to be replaced. I just think it's the best way to go. You got to do what you're comfortable with, right? Now, I have tried different versions. I'm hoping to get something else this time around. The last one I did in the 2021 Tacoma was by Rough Country, although it really was a rebranded K&N type open intake. I may end up going that route again. The one thing that I liked about that, the shield or box, enclosure, whatever you want to call it, that the filter sits in over here, I was able to trim so that I could put the hood struts on to be able to, you know, open the hood easier and then have it sit up without having this thing in the way. I did like that because it was easily trimmable. I may go that route again because it was so easy to use with the hood struts. If you didn't know, go with a big box like an S&B cold air intake, a true cold air intake. And the box is so big that it gets in the way of the hood strut. You can't put one on this side. I won't do that again. I found last time that it kind of skewed the hood, kind of made it sit like this because it only had one strut supporting this side and no support on this side, and it did make a difference. Long term, I think it could have caused trouble in warping the hood, if you will. So I won't do that again. We will be going with hopefully a snazzier cold air intake in the form of what the tubing is designed like. I mean, they all work the same otherwise. They're just a strut. Anyway, that's what I'm going to be doing. If you have any suggestions, something with a bit of pop under there, maybe I'm not aware of it, leave a comment. Let me know. I'd be curious. Also, real quick, I do have 2 additional channels. Mod Driven, all about the Honda Civic, and RobMotive JT, all about the Jeep Gladiator. Check them out, and if you're interested, why not subscribe? And while you're at it, smash the subscribe button here too. Thanks for watching. Stay safe out there.